The movie begins with a young woman entering a cozy, dimly lit restaurant. She notices a man named Nick, already seated and enjoying his drink. The woman, named Dee, orders a Diet Pepsi and heads to a secluded table at the back. Shortly after, Dee's boyfriend, Osgood, arrives in a flashy red Mustang. He joins Dee, who expresses her desire to leave, mentioning a drunk man who might cause trouble. Osgood reassures her, saying it won't be an issue, and they begin discussing their future together. Nick interrupts again, introducing himself once more and asking Dee to dance. She asks him to leave them alone, but Nick persists. This leads to a confrontation with Osgood, who eventually gets into a physical altercation with Nick. During the scuffle, Nick pulls off Osgood's wig, revealing his bald head. Embarrassed and frustrated, Osgood is pulled away by Dee, who wants to avoid further conflict. The couple exits the restaurant, but Nick follows them outside, leading to another fight. This time, Osgood manages to land several punches, causing Nick to retreat. After the fight, Dee runs to Osgood, and they share a tender moment. The scene then shifts to a dark, late night. A car door slams and a woman is dropped off on the side of a desolate road. In a hospital emergency room, the woman who was previously dropped off from the car is now being rushed in on a stretcher, her body covered in wounds and blood. The emergency medical staff work quickly, trying to stabilize her condition. Amidst the flurry of activity, they repeatedly ask her for the name of the person who did this to her. The woman, her voice weak and fading, keeps uttering the name Nick before she finally loses consciousness, her eyes closing as the medical team continues their efforts to save her. In a modest motel room, Nick is lying in bed, seemingly at ease. The scene cuts to him driving his car through the city, navigating the morning traffic on his way to work. He eventually arrives at a nondescript office building. Nick is employed as a security consultant. Inside the office, a lawyer, Pinky, greets him and mentions that several letters have arrived for him. However, Nick appears disinterested. He sat and listened as Pinky read each letter. As they were doing this, a man walked into the office. A man introduces himself as Cyrus, a potential client. He explains that he was referred to Nick by an ex-client from Boston and needs Nick's services for personal security during an upcoming visit to a casino. Cyrus elaborates on the nature of the job, emphasizing the importance of discretion and reliability. Nick listens attentively, nodding as Cyrus speaks. After a brief discussion, Nick agrees to take on the assignment, and Cyrus, looking relieved, leaves the office. Nick got out of his office and drove his car to a restaurant. Just as he is about to enter, Osgood appears and meets him outside. Osgood expresses his gratitude, handing Nick money for the job and mentioning that Dee has fallen for him after he stood up to Nick the previous night. After this brief exchange, Nick heads into the restaurant. Inside, Nick makes his way to the bar and begins chatting with the bartender. They both eavesdrop on a conversation between a couple sitting at a nearby table. The lady bartender eventually goes to serve the customers and, upon returning, informs Nick that Holly has just called. She hands him a piece of paper and jokingly tells him not to waste his grapefruit juice. Nick then proceeds to Holly's house. As he enters, he hears Holly talking from another room, her voice tense and anxious. When she finally emerges, her face is revealed to be wounded. Holly recounts the events of the previous night at the Golden Nugget Hotel in distressing detail. She explains how she was exploited under the guise of a party and that she is in desperate need of Nick's help. Nick responds to Holly, pointing out that the Golden Nugget isn't a safe place and that she should have been more cautious. Holly, however, is resolute and tells Nick that she wants to sue the man who assaulted her. She insists that all she needs is the man's name. Nick, maintaining that he has no connections at that hotel, leaves Holly's house. Determined to help Holly despite his earlier reluctance, Nick drives to another hotel and makes his way to the laundry room. There, he finds Millicent, a staff member known for her knowledge of the hotel's underbelly. Nick describes the physical appearance of the man who abused Holly. She will meet Nick at a nearby burger joint after her shift. Later that evening, Nick arrives at the burger joint. He spots Millicent already there, eating her meal. Nick sits down with her and Millicent begins to describe the man, revealing his name as Danny DeMarco. She goes on to detail his bodyguards and their typical routines. Millicent warns Nick that DeMarco is dangerous and advises him against pursuing this matter if he values his life. She emphasizes the power and reach DeMarco has, suggesting that going after him would be a significant risk. Despite the warning, Nick listens intently, his mind already formulating a plan. The scene ends with Nick deep in thought, contemplating the next steps in helping Holly seek justice. Nick, despite having all the details, decides to call Holly and lies, telling her he couldn't find any information about her abuser. Holly, frustrated and hurt, cuts the call short, accusing him of being a liar. Nick then shifts his focus to his job and goes to meet Cyrus. He spends the day showing Cyrus around the city, giving him a tour of Las Vegas. After exploring various sites, they end up at a casino. Nick reassures Cyrus that he will be safe there before leaving him to return to Holly's place. At Holly's home, Nick decides to reveal the truth. He provides her with the name of her abuser, DeMarco, and all the information she would need to sue him. Just as Nick is about to leave, Holly asks him to wait while she writes down the details. Nick waits, but his patience wears thin, and he begins to feel increasingly bitter towards Holly. Sensing his change in attitude, Holly questions Nick about his anger. Nick confronts Holly, accusing her of being a liar as well and insinuating that she never intended to sue DeMarco. Holly admits that Nick is right. She confesses that her real plan is not to sue, but to have Nick soften up DeMarco and his men so that she can exact her own revenge, hurting Danny in the same way he hurt her. Nick leaves Holly's place without a word, heading directly to the Golden Nugget Hotel. There, he dons a Santa Claus red hat and approaches Danny's suite. He knocks on the door, and when one of Danny's guards answers, Nick introduces himself as someone sent by Baby to bring a girl for Danny. The first guard is skeptical and refuses to let him in, but the second guard, recognizing the name Baby, allows Nick entry into Danny's private chamber. Inside, Danny is lounging in a bathtub. He asks Nick about the girl, inquiring if she is beautiful. Nick responds that she was beautiful until someone disrespected her the previous night. This comment prompts Danny to step out of the tub. He casually offers Nick $50,000, suggesting he take the money and leave, or else face the threat of a bullet. As if complying, Nick turns around to leave. However, the scene takes a dramatic and unexpected turn. Instead of exiting, Nick swiftly pivots and starts attacking Danny's bodyguards with fierce determination. Danny attempts to shoot Nick, but Nick skillfully dodges the bullets. In a matter of moments, Nick incapacitates the bodyguards and ties them up together. He then forces Danny to sit on a chair. Holly enters the room. Holly, driven by her desire for revenge, begins to torture Danny in the same manner he had tormented her. She holds a cutter to Danny's private parts, demanding that he profess his love for her. She makes it clear that only if she believes his sincerity will she spare him. This psychological and physical torment continues for a while. Ultimately, Holly decides to spare Danny. With their grim task completed, Holly and Nick leave the suite, taking the $50,000 with them. They split the money equally. Afterward, Nick returns to the casino where he had left Cyrus. Before reconnecting with Cyrus, Nick takes some time to play a few hands of blackjack. Nick leaves the blackjack game unfinished, intending to return later. When he does sit back at the table, he plays exceptionally well and ends up winning $500,000. Nick and Cyrus are then seen enjoying their drinks, celebrating Nick's big win. Just as Nick is about to cash in his poker chips, he changes his mind and returns to the playing table. Unfortunately, this decision leads to him losing everything in a fit of frustration and rage. Overwhelmed by the loss, Nick panics and blacks out. Cyrus helps Nick to a room, where he expresses his admiration for Nick's fearless nature and offers to pay any amount to learn how to be equally brave. Nick, still reeling from his losses, rejects the offer and heads to the bar in the casino below. While nursing his drink, a group of thugs sent by Danny DeMarco bursts in. Fueled by the anger of losing $500,000, Nick unleashes his fury on the thugs, giving each of them a thorough beating. After dealing with the thugs, a group of guards affiliated with Baby arrives at the casino and asks Nick to come with them. Nick complies and is taken to a secluded location where Danny DeMarco is already present. Danny accuses Nick of breaking into his suite, killing his bodyguards, and stealing $50,000. Baby, the head of the operation, turns to Nick for his side of the story. Nick calmly responds that Danny is lying and suggests that Baby check under Danny's pants for a small wound as proof of the struggle. Upon inspection, Baby finds the wound, and Danny leaves in embarrassment, vowing to come after Nick. The following morning, Nick is sitting at the same bar from his office enjoying his grapefruit juice. Cyrus is also there, and he offers Nick $500,000 and a ticket to Corsica. As they engage in casual conversation, Nick mentions that he is being targeted for murder. Right on cue, Danny and his thugs burst into the restaurant. Cyrus quickly creates a distraction, allowing Nick to escape. Nick hides on the roof, waiting for the right moment. When he jumps down, he engages in a fierce fight, using a knife from the restaurant to kill all the assassins and Danny. After the violent confrontation, Nick returns to his car, where Cyrus once again offers him $500,000 and a ticket to Corsica. Initially hesitant, Nick eventually accepts the offer. They shake hands, solidifying their new friendship. The movie concludes with Nick returning to his motel, packing up all his belongings. With a determined look, he leaves Las Vegas behind, ready for a new beginning.